Hello, Simone. I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we are going to be talking about the Destiny controversy, but not from the normal angle, because that is not our profession with this channel, is digging up dirt on people. And frankly, I found the actual dirt of the controversy, while, technically immoral,
Yeah.
kind of mundane for the amount of uproar it's driven.
That's interesting. Okay.
And that led me, and more importantly to me, the emotions it drew in myself.
Huh.
And this is what I wanted to focus on with this. Why did Destiny controversies, despite being otherwise mundane, gross me out so much every time they happen? Join us as we explore the magical world of gross progressive influencers.
Is this a Monica Lewinsky thing?
No, it's not a Monica Lewinsky thing. Monica Lewinsky, everyone knew why Monica Lewinsky was gross. Monica Lewinsky was gross because Monica Lewinsky was not an attractive woman.
No, but I mean, people freaked out about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky because it didn't fit the proper stereotype for that type of scandal. And perhaps this doesn't fit the proper stereotype for this type of scandal.
Something about it. Yeah, as we pointed out, like if you look at the whatever Trump's sex scandal, who is that?
Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels. Nobody really cared about Stormy Daniels.
Because of course, because I mean, yeah, that's presidents have affairs with famous figures, famous sex symbols. Okay.
Nobody really cared about the Kennedy Marilyn Monroe thing. Like
exactly. Yes.
So that could be a part of this, but we'll get into that in a second. First, I want to go over because just quickly go over the
logistics of what happened. Yeah, because I'm not even super clear on. I just
and we actually are weirdly tied to this in a way, so we'll get into that. I will note that we have social ties to Destiny Circle. I don't know him personally. We've talked about wanting to do things together. I know that he's told other people that we have talked about wanting to do things, but he's never gotten back to us. And if people know things about me, there are two key personality traits I have. One is that I am very loyal. Especially somebody bigger than me, does something for me, I really make a point of remembering that. Then the second is that I am very, very arrogant. And whenever somebody doesn't think I'm worth talking to, I become very irate.
Had Destiny not
blown me off,
flaked on us and blown us off, we probably would be.
No, I'm very loyal like that. I don't care if he has different political beliefs or whatever. I wouldn't do that shit.
Yeah.
But too bad. Not that we're big enough to matter to him. All right, so he was hitting on within his Discord what people call a Discord bunny, or I guess a random follower within his community.
Okay.
He was apparently pretty well established in the community, and she was 19 years old. And to hit on her, anyway, so he sent her a video of audio and video recordings of things he had done with other girls.
Ew, no. Oh, that's
attempt. Now, my understanding of this video,
dick pics would be so much better than that. That just, I don't.
And this is where it gets grosser to me for whatever reason, is it appears it was of him going down on other girls. I think he was trying to prove to her that he could please girls, or show some of these, it appears, were recorded potentially without consent, allegedly. But the key one in the case was recorded, it appears with consent, but it's not 100% yet.
Okay. That is, I've never heard of someone doing that before. I think typically it's considered a really bad idea to even talk about your past relationships with a prospective partner, right? No one wants to hear about that.
More girls to guys, and I understand that people say that works the other way, but it really doesn't. I've never really had a problem, especially if you're showing the preponderance of women that are interested in you with girls. A lot of girls find that a turn on. There was actually a great study about this that showed that girls are more likely to hit on married men or men with wedding rings than men without wedding rings. It's called, the term I was thinking of is called pre-selection. It means that some other woman has essentially pre-vetted a potential mate as a good candidate. And when lots of women like a mate as a potential candidate, that's a sign that regardless of anything else, even if you're unable to see why their genes are good, their genes are sort of being proven as good within this environment, and you would want your sons to have those genes. There is also a phenomenon called the wedding ring effect, which I talked about above. I forget the concept. This South Park does a thing on it, basically. The more girls who scream, the more girls who scream.
Problem, Chef. I have many problems. I just don't know what I'm gonna do. Sometimes I wonder if God is just toying with me.
All right, Eric, what's the matter?
Chef, God told me I was to start a boy band and make $10 million. The problem is, it isn't working.
Well, Eric, boy bands aren't about music. Boy bands are created by corporations to make money. They're all based on the Gomlich effect, the law of physics that states if one girl screams for something, it will make other girls scream. And then it grows exponentially until all girls within a 5-mile radius are screaming. All they do is make videos showing tons and tons of girls screaming for the boy bands. Once you get girls screaming, you can't stop them. They're crazy. And a cucumber in the pants never hurt either.
Cucumber in the pants, got it. When you see us, you girls all scream like, oh my God, it's finger pig, oh my God, okay? Fine, who would you go crazy for?
Matt Lauer.
Okay, fine, pretend that we're Matt Lauer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, roll camera. Timer! Jesus Christ!
But it means that when girls see other girls interested in you, they are more interested in you. And there's ways that you can prove this with various forms of social proof, etc.
So you think he was trying to do that?
I think he was trying to show that he was good at going down on girls. I don't see anything other than that. I think that that's what it was. One of the girls in this is somebody that he had gotten with a few years ago when she, it turns out, was also 19. Keep in mind, Destiny's 36 and has a kid. Okay. And it's bad to, record things and then share them with other people. But in the context, he had shared it with somebody who he thought he had a good relationship with. And well, he had talked with them at least a few times and wasn't going to go out and share it. It seems pretty clear to me that his intention was not to leak this. This had very serious negative repercussions on his career, on his relationships. It was not his intention. Yeah, the person who is complaining about all this says it was his intention. I can see how he thought, well, nobody hears about it. It's not unethical, right? Like, I don't agree with this. Like, I think it is clearly an unethical boundary violation
But
thing.
if anyone took intimate video, audio, or images of me and then shared them with someone else without my consent, I would be incensed. That's a huge violation.
I understand, Simone, but again, like I look at these are people hooking up with the famous, streamer. Like,
you're kind of saying, like, what do you expect?
What do you expect? One who, had allegations of doing this in the past, and it came out quickly as this case has had a history of recording and sharing these recordings, and had other people warning people that he had been recording. And then he said, no, I didn't do that. And by the way, about the 19-year-old thing, I'll play a clip right here from Destiny about what he thinks about 19-year-olds and their mental acuity.
Now, if you're 22, a 19-year-old's not a kid to you, okay? I'm 29. A 19-year-old might as well be a 15-year-old to me. It's all the fucking same, dude. I have about as much in common with like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old fucking freshman in school as I would a fucking sophomore in high school. Any type of inclination towards any of those people is really fucking weird.
Oh, that came out bad later.
Yes, that came out bad later. And here's one about him on sharing videos of other people, what he thinks of people who do that.
I just don't see the huge difference between like sex and nudes. Like, you're leaking like personal, like sexual shit that somebody sent you and like trusted you with. In my opinion, this is like one of the biggest forms of like weird, like backstabbing shit that you can do. It's like one of the worst things a person can do is like leaking like private sexual shit.
Again, not positive.
I wonder when our own statements will be used out of context against us like this.
No, these are not out of context statements. These are in context statements. Yeah. But the point here being is I was really surprised by because this isn't like there are like so many times where somebody is like griefing on like genuine minors or like age gap relationships and stuff. I'm like, whatever, like, it can be weird in some circumstances, but whatever. Historically, they were pretty normal. I guess right here, I am a bit biased at the moment because I've been reading a lot of history about one of my ancestors, John Knox, who multiple times when he was older got married to a 17-year-old. In both of those marriages, it appeared the women were very, very happy. And since I'm descended from one of those, I have to have a thing about, well, I mean, maybe not always are they the worst. But in a modern context, a 17-year-old, that's young, I guess. So I should say, okay, in a modern context, age gap relationships might be a problem. But why did I react that way was something I reflecting on. And then I reflected on it with the last Destiny scandal. And
What
this
was
was
the
a
last
scandal.
Destiny scandal?
Oh, the cucking scandal, where he let his wife sleep with other men and appeared to be into it at times. And eventually his wife left him for one of the men that she was sleeping with, and then started demanding money from him in like a
Oh,
really, honestly, to me, skeezy way. I kind of feel like almost he's been victimized in that regards. And then part of this to me is almost sort of mitigated because Destiny is like an actively like into dudes. As he has said before, he likes essing D and effing femboys.
okay.
So, you
Well, I mean,
know,
he then sounds like someone who's just very in touch with his sexuality. He knows
I
what he
wouldn't say
likes.
in touch with his in touch, good turn of phrase there. I would say he's very hypersexualized right now, which is odd for this stage of his life and being a dad, I'm gonna be honest. And we can go over to if we wanna go over, like, a long tweet thing that he did, like, just last Valentine's Day, you can be like, "This is the type of degeneracy he's getting into these days." I was like, "Why am I responding so, like, ick to him and, like, low ick to, say, Trump's stuff," right?
Uh-huh.
And I think that this is why the Dems tried to get him so hard with the P-tapes, because that could have caused an ick response, but they never could get, I think, a lot of people to believe in that. They were just like, this seems obviously fake.
Mm.
And I was trying to think of other celebrities that have given me this ick response. And I was like, is actually Louis C.K. and the like public masturbation thing.
Mm.
So I want to get to trying to like correlate what causes this ick response in the general public or in me specifically around certain, because like the Louis C.K. one, again, maybe like not the worst thing in the world, but
No.
like it caused a much grosser response to me than like Trump barging into like women at the pageant where he was owning the pageant's like dressing rooms, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so we'll get into that.
Okay.
And then I want to get into, and it's not due to liking them, I should say. I actually was pretty against Trump the first time he ran. Simone, you remember that. I was on JD Vance's side. I was the, I wouldn't say never Trumper, but I definitely had a lot of resistance to him as a human being. I did not think that he could be a good president. I didn't think he was mentally stable, but I did not have an ick response to the dressing room story when it came out. I was just like, okay, a
Yeah.
perv, right? But before I go further, I want to read a quote that I thought was really interesting because people who
Okay.
don't know this, Destiny's a progressive streamer, right? And this is of one of his fans. It was like one of the tops of the Reddit threads about this. It's probably over unless the outcome is him being completely vindicated of all wrongdoing, which is unlikely at this point. It's Jover. Almost all orbiters have cut loose and drifted off into space. Nobody will take him seriously in politics now. The momentum he has built for years is gone. I'm just so disappointed. This is the first creator I've been a super fan of that has nuked their career like this, and it hurts. I don't even know what to do now. I've been watching him for years now, and what? Who else on the left is even worth watching? Pacman? Sweet guy, but he's boring. Dylan Burns? Sure, I guess, but only after the Ukrainian docs. TYT Vosh, Hassan, Kalaisky? Hell no to all four. The online left has nothing to offer me now. Maybe I'm wrong, and there's some sane liberal media figures who bring the same spice Destiny had done, but I haven't seen them. Probably just going to quit paying attention to politics now. I don't care anymore. The world will burn under Trumpism, and there will be no force of truth left to stand against it. Because the best the left can offer are apparently sex pests, cringe woke scolds, and champagne socialists. We are doomed. All I can do is avert my eyes and retreat into my own life. This just fucking sucks. And I think that this is actually a really good point before we go further into this, which is this is a critical time for this to happen at the left.
Yeah, well, I would argue that there still is. I would say the A Little Bit Fruity podcast with Matt Bernstein is great. I think that it's well done. His takes are entertaining. He does talk about news and politics. So
is he like a rabid anti-Trumpist? So
yeah, he's a gay leftist. He has on guests and just like very very progressive media figures.
You could watch Tracy Woodgrain stuff on Substack. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but no, Tracy's considered like center right.
Tracy is not center right. Tracy is very much on the left. He is
Right, but
called
by the
center
left,
right
he
by
would be by the
no,
left,
no,
he would be considered center right. I'm
no, he
talking about
wouldn't.
people who
I'm sorry, Simone. You've actually got to really worry yourself about succumbing to this terrorism. There is a terrorism on the left where they try to attack left centrists, as they did with Destiny. If you
Mhm.
ask a leftist, if you ask Hassan, he's going to say Destiny is center right. They say this about every leftist who is at all open to outside ideas, open to debating rightists, open to anything like that. When you, even on the right, are succumbing to this, Simone, what you do is one, pollute the right, and two, give these people the ability to hold the left hostage. Tracy Woodgrains votes leftist. He considers himself leftist. And more than that, his opinions align with around the center margin of leftist opinions right now, if you look at voting patterns or polling.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think he leans
You might be
left in many
surprised of
respects,
the
but
percent of lefty voters who are trans skeptical at this point.
no, I agree with you. I'm just saying, one, this guy's wrong about good leftist podcast / media figures. I think
I
not.
disagree entirely. I mean, you know this one guy who I've never heard of. I know all the people.
Yeah,
he's
because
talking
you
about.
live in an echo chamber.
How
Of
many
course.
followers does he have? What was his name? He's like 189K subscribers, Simone.
Yes, but you gotta start somewhere.
Well, no, you've got to
It's more
start
than we
somewhere.
have.
The point I'm making, Simone, and hold on, I'll check his videos. How do they do? Yeah, they do pretty well, actually. They're like in the
Yeah.
260,
How did
200.
Elon Musk get like this? 264K views. The tech
Well, he's
bro
getting about 250,000 per
oligarchy,
video. He's up and coming.
162K views. Blake Lively and the Amber Heard Effect, 164K views. The Cult of Stan Culture, 160K views. He has people on like ContraPoints. I mean, he's like I'm saying, it's there are places that leftists can go for commentary. But I also agree with you that yes, this is not a great time for center left leaning figures to start dropping.
Well, and not just that,
right?
but the center left figure who they had planned to be the Joe Rogan of the left, because that's what everyone said
Oh
after
yeah.
his first
Well,
election.
yeah. Well, no, that whole discussion is over. Everyone agrees. Obviously, Joe Rogan was the Joe Rogan of the left until the left just shoved Joe Rogan into the
Yeah.
right, which is what's happening with basically anyone who survives and ends up being cool. Just is like, all right, well, I guess I'm kind of hanging out toward the right. There's this weird bastion of the right that's left, like the Blocked and Reported podcast, where they've kind of been shoved to the right by the left, but they still refuse to embrace the right. Like they're still very, very unhappy that Trump was elected, is most of their audience. So I think that's really interesting that there's this weird within like the heterodox world, the like not perfectly left world. It's like, well, okay, I understand that the left hates me and sees me as evil, but at the same time, I hate the right. It's really weird. Like they can't let go of it.
Well, no, it's
And
like
I
they
don't
haven't
understand that.
woken up yet. You look at the others, like the Free Press, who have become like Trump's biggest fans. You know,
Yeah.
And-
They absolutely love Trump, and yeah. But it is really interesting that you can become hated by the left actively, and people like Jesse Singal have like Blue Sky wanting him dead, but he can't let go of his hatred of the like his bias of the right is still so strong that he can't let it go, even though he's now like subject to the same prejudice that figures on the right are, and that he doesn't seem to realize that maybe many of these people are still quite framed poorly, or he chooses to think of like I don't know, misinterpret what they're saying. I'm not sure. It's very strange to me. This
Well, no, I mean, I think that they're still in the cult. They've just been considered persona non grata. They're one of those people who's been like kicked out of a religion, and like the religion's done all sorts of terrible stuff, but they're like, yeah, but I still believe. It's just like the current cult leader or whatever is a bad guy. And you're like, no, you really should try to deprogram a bit here, buddy, before you move on with your life. But one of the fun things about this, so there's a few fun things about this. The first is that the girl whose sex tape that he leaked, the one at the center of this, was actually her core thing was in the Destiny community, was sort of as a proof point that you didn't need to give Destiny sexual favors if you were a girl and going to be a active or prominent within his community.
well, didn't
And
she technically receive the sexual favor?
whatever. The point is that is why it was so reputationally damaging, or part of why it was so reputationally damaging to her. But it
Because
also,
everyone thought they had not been intimate at all, and clearly they had been.
and he was still favoring her and bringing her on stuff, and so
Oh,
now it just makes it look like any girl who's around Destiny, you can really only get around him by sexual favors,
that's
which is deeply unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah.
The next one, which is really fun for me, is the guy who leaked all of this, because this wasn't intended to be leaked. Like, the girl who got this was like, this is bad. I want to tell the girls who are in this that they're in it, but I don't want this to get public. The guy who made this public and then has leaked further things about this is a guy called President Sunday.
That's
So
fun.
I go to his YouTube channel after this because I'm like, okay, who is this guy, right? He's got 5.2 thousand subscribers, so, you know, very small. And one of the most recent videos was 5,000 views, was about us.
What?
It was what I do appreciate about him is it was on our One Civilization video,
Oh,
which
that
is
would make you so delighted.
easily our most controversial video. And so many people, when they do videos on us, it's like on non-controversial ones. Like, we had the people who tried to do a takedown on us for our like consent video. And I'm like, come on, that's nothing. That's nothing. But the one Civilization video, that one is spice. For people who haven't seen that, like, if you're new to the channel, like, that's like one of the key videos on the channel, I guess I'd say, where we argue that it appears that one civilization jumped from culture to culture, exhausting it, then moving to the next culture, but was like 500 to 1,000 years before the rest of the world and almost everything from technology to infrastructure to art to literature. And this went from ancient Egypt to Mesopotamia to ancient Greece to ancient Rome to Charlemagne to Britain to the world. Very offensive. But we bring a lot of receipts in this video. It was one of the most researched videos we've ever done for the channel. And people who are like, why don't you do more videos like that? And I'm like, because it took me like 3 weeks to do. It was the same with like our recent tract video that like nobody watches, where I like diligently go through every part of the Bible. And it's like, why don't you do, nobody watches this. You know, I try to put a lot of effort in, but nobody cares. If you're wondering what his core take on our One Civilization video was, it was so astonishingly dumb, I don't even know how to reply. He kept going, like, when I was like, okay, so Rome had this ancient bath complex in Britain. Like, what did Britain do since then? How long before they could build great buildings like this again? And he goes, well, didn't Britain build things like the London Eye? That's the giant Ferris wheel thing in the center of London that was built like, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. Whenever we would mention something, he would then mention some piece of architecture or literature from literally tens of thousands of years later as like a complete comparable. It's like, well, yes, the ancient Greeks could build statues like this in, 500 BC. But how is that any different from the Japanese doing it in 2023? It's like, well, what? The video is an exploration of how and why history developed and develops as it does going forwards, which is like, do you lack any curiosity into history or the way the world is or why the world works the way it does? Or do you just take like the standard narrative from leftists and then swallow it whole? Like, yum, yum, yum. This guy also hates Ruby ARD and just does like every other video is about how much he hates Ruby ARD, which is just a sign of his bad character. I would say I do think it's funny that like our crazy recent tracked video, track 9, could be seen as, I mentioned it as like our Ruby ARD moment in terms of going crazy, but we go crazy in literally like exactly the opposite way along every metric. He's like, oh, Odin, like, oh, I'm like, no, Christianity is the only way to do it. All paganism must be removed. He's like, well, I'm getting these like vibes from the universe. I'm like, okay, we need to like a word puzzle, go through every line in the Bible. Okay, grammar check, alternate grammar check. Where is this used in other locations? So I just love the difference in our types of crazy, which I think it helps you. If you listen to people with different types of crazy, you're going to eventually hear some ideas you wouldn't have heard of from your not crazy friends, as long as they're somehow still attached to reality. So anyway, this guy is doing videos on us, which made me really excited.
Very flattering. So super cool, even though he probably hates us, I'm sure.
Oh no, he hates that you have the video. I love it. He's like, why does she have an infant in the video? And I'm like, are you like against working moms, Mr. Lefty here?
Yeah,
Like,
where
what
do you
want
want
her
me
to
to? Should the infant be crying and alone in another room? Should I
Yes,
be,
that's like literally what they think.
wealthier than we are and like paying someone to watch the infant? Like, I don't.
Everyone must keep their child in a box or have a staff of full-time nannies.
Yeah,
Or the
this.
women must know their limits and stay in the
Oh,
bedroom
yeah.
where they belong. Even though you're in the bedroom right now.
People got to be reasonable, man.
But they just aren't. Lefties are never reasonable. And it's so funny when righties like criticize people. It's always like, okay, like me with Destiny. I'm like, well, this was bad, but and I will also say one of the things before I go further with the Destiny thing is
Mhm.
his age to me makes this significantly worse. Not because
Mhm.
he's with younger girls
Why,
here.
there are people who are way older who also have issues with their sex drive being way higher than it has any need to be.
Right. My point being is when a young guy, like for example, if Ruby ARD got caught in some sort of a sex thing, I'd be like, whatever.
Yeah,
Like
he's in his 20s. It's gonna
he's in his
happen.
20s. If I was famous in my 20s, I would have done so much worse stuff than this. And I mean this without any as an adult, I try to be like a goblin slayer. Like that's the way I try to approach life. As a kid, I was a Ruby. I was thinking Rudius Grey Rat from Jobless Reincarnation, but he's the worst. But anyway, so to go further here, the question is why? Why the disgust reaction? My initial hypothesis is that there is a disgust reaction towards males in dominant positions within society and wide sexual access acting submissively.
Oh, I see.
So Trump
Well,
busted
I don't know,
into
but hold on
words.
though. So here's actually a really good, like, recent additional sexual scandal that's happening at this roughly the same time, which is with Neil Gaiman, the famous author. Wrote great stuff, and I still love him just the same, But he got in trouble for sexual misconduct with like nannies and stuff. And in this
What
case, it
sexual
was
misconduct? I've heard about the story. I haven't heard anything that incriminating.
he was BDSM-y and he was dommy, but he's still getting a lot of
Why?
heat for it.
What specifically rule did he break?
As you've all seen on the news, our country is facing a major crisis. Why? Why are rich, successful men suddenly going out and trying to have sex with lots of women? Why would a man who's famous and makes tons of money use that to try and have sex with lots of different women? And these rich celebrities have perfectly good wives at home. Why would they even think of sex with others? Damn it! I want answers!
Of course, we all know the normal, healthy male thinks only of sex occasionally and has no desire for sex with multiple partners.
Yeah, that's right, of course. Yes, definitely true. Yes, we all know that. Go on.
I'd note here that as I dig into it more, some people are claiming that there was a lack of consent, but these stories are very old, like one's from 2007. So it could very well be true given his power. I would probably be afraid of going up against him, but I'm not going to just immediately believe anyone who accuses a famous person at this point. So that might be a story for another time.
How dare he? I mean, some of it was seen as kind of creepy. Like at one point, I think he had sex with a nanny with his son in the same room, just watching an iPad. But like, I feel like people are still freaking out about him, even though he's acting in accordance with typical stereotypes. He was playing the dominant role. He was sleeping with, nannies, like all the classic stereotypes.
Yeah, that sounds like classic stuff. That doesn't
But
sound
people
like...
are still freaking out. That's why I'm like, maybe this isn't just about him bucking that. I mean, for you, maybe it's uniquely disgusting because he is acting in a subby.
Well, I wonder if the Neil Gaiman one, this is what I've seen about the Neil Gaiman one, okay?
Okay.
So I actually think that the Neil Gaiman one is different. I don't think he's actually losing about his sexual stuff in the court of public opinion.
Uh-huh.
I think the reason Neil Gaiman is falling apart right now is because he so gleefully supported cancel culture.
Did he?
Yes, he did. He was a very big proponent of cancel culture. He tried to have other people's canceled.
No.
Even for sexual stuff, like this sort of stuff. I
Oh,
think
I didn't know
that's
that.
why this is happening.
Okay. That would explain that then. Yeah. How dare you?
Also, it's a Hollywood problem. which
Mm.
is the Hollywood problem is that it doesn't matter what. If they feel like canceling someone today, they're going to cancel someone today. Whereas as like YouTubers, I think it's a little harder to get randomly canceled like this, especially with Destiny's following. Like, wasn't Destiny the one who had like porn on his computer that one time?
I was kind of
Pulling it out.
bad at engaging with Destiny's content. It's not exactly like,
I find it incredibly boring.
yeah. The only Destiny content I've watched is just content that has other people that I really like in it. Who probably now
Yeah.
don't want to be associated with him. So
Well, so do you not have that reaction when you hear the Neil Gaiman thing? You were like, it doesn't make me think less of him.
yeah, I'm like, fine. I mean, I think less of him now if what you say is true, that he
Yeah, that
participated
makes
in
me think
cancel
less, but
culture.
the other
That
stuff, I
makes
mean-
yeah, but like him, yeah, I guess leveraging his status as a very wealthy,
Yeah,
powerful
here's like he
man to
leveraged
be
them with
in
status.
a
and
dominant position. Yeah, I mean,
he made them call
all the
him
women were like,
master.
how
Like,
dare
that's
he,
normal shit.
as a more powerful man, take advantage of these young women and be in dominant positions. And I'm like, dude, you're 50 Shades of Grey, man. Like this is a very common female fantasy.
This is like Neil Gaiman is like literal 50 Shades of Grey. Like he's like an
yeah,
actual
like
like,
this.
Gaiman.
What the scenario of quote unquote abuse that you're describing here is like the plot line of 93% of all romance novels. I really don't see the problem here. People may be retroactively deciding that it wasn't great for them, and that's a product of our culture, not really anything that I think he did wrong. However, this is different. What's happening here actually with Destiny is decidedly not women's fantasy. I guess it is very popular for women to like guys going down on them. I am, I guess, in the minority that really finds
No,
that
it's not that
extremely
popular.
aversive.
It's not that
It
popular.
shows up a lot. Here's my problem: is I haven't like checked in on what's popular for over a year now on Gone Wild Audio, but like a really big
It
problem.
does show up a lot in women's porn, actually. You're right about
Yeah,
that.
and it is so like if it's a major turnoff to you and you're just like going through and then it comes up, you're just like, "Blah!" Like all of a sudden, like you trigger warning, please. Like, why is that here? Just don't. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's another issue is what's going on here with women and Destiny really kind of bucks the female fantasy. This is not out of a fantasy novel at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, so here's another thing we can talk about is when is our buck gonna come home on controversy? I will say if people are like, and this is like perving on people on Discord and stuff like that. Like apparently he does. Like even has like a not safe for work Discord just to like perv on people. Where I'm like, people are like, oh Malcolm, you might do that if you were ever drunk on Discord. And one of the funny things is recently on a Discord, I was talking at night, and somebody was like, if it's nighttime, he's probably drunk. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
that is true. If I am talking on Discord at night, I am 100% drunk.
But also like
100%
you
how much it is.
find like live action porn to be actively disgusting. So like
Well,
the
but
idea that you would
on-
request nudes from someone. would
I
be
definitely
weird.
wouldn't request. Well, but I don't know. Like if somebody was like hitting on me or something, or like told me they were interested.
If anything, it would turn you on because of the fact that they sent you nudes, but you probably wouldn't open the image file aside to like verify that they did.
Yeah, probably. I'd be like,
Yeah,
hey,
I think, but merely the fact that they would do that would be the thing that would turn you on, not the
okay,
actual image.
I'll actually take it back. If you died and I had to find a new wife, I can definitely see myself like accidentally stepping on some bombshells in terms of hitting on fans.
I guess I'd better not die.
Yeah, you protect me from a lot of sexual scandals, Simone.
Maybe we need to set up some kind of AI version of me that will like personally select and vet your future wife. And then you just have to go with whatever AI Simone Sim1
Says.
selects. Yeah. They'll be like, Sim1 has chosen your wife. You must listen to
Dude,
her.
talk that Mormon story where one Mormon wife did that.
I think this has happened a couple of times. Yeah, there was at least one Mormon wife story we heard where like a one because per Mormon understandings of how kind of death works, you don't get to go to heaven and live together forever with your husband and just your husband if you're a wife and you die before him and then he remarries. You're gonna have to live with his second wife too. So this one wife gets terminally ill and she says to her husband, like, listen, man, like this isn't just for you. If I have to live with this woman in all eternity, I get to choose your
Which
next
Mormons
wife.
believe.
Yeah. So she did, and they got married, and it was great. And I think it's very nice, that the wife number 2 got her
Okay,
blessing.
more explicitly, she got on a pre-selected list, and he had to
They'll
choose
be
somebody.
sister wives in heaven, and that's nice.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm trying to think of like other potential. I think one of the interesting things as well, in terms of like us knowing a lot of celebrity type people, some been on the show, some haven't been on the show, is if you hang out with them, you get a really clear picture really quickly what sort of scandals they might get involved in.
Huh.
And I think
I
with like
guess
the
I
Destiny
don't.
thing,
I always assume the very best of everyone, and I don't assume that anyone has ever done anything wrong.
well, no, okay, but we just the problem is the types of celebrity types that we hang out with just wouldn't do something like that. Their scandals would be very limited. So obviously, the most potentially scandal prone from the perspective of other people would be Ayla. Ayla would never get into a scandal where it was shown that she had intentionally wronged anyone.
The underrated thing about Ayla is that she is actually one of the most pure and wholesome people in the entire world. And people just like assume that because of, like her like, I don't know, theming and career, that she is not wholesome. But
She
she
does
is.
get into scandals,
What scandal?
Okay,
What?
so the one where it turned out that she'd had sex more times in a year than she had bathed that year.
That's not a scandal. That's just a
It
fun
went
fact.
viral. It's a
Yeah, that's what a fun fact that goes viral. Like that's Pluto being named not a planet anymore also went viral. That's not a scandal.
okay,
I guess
I
some
get
people
what you
call
mean,
it.
but the point I guess I don't consider it a normal scandal because she didn't wrong anyone. It's just Ayla being Ayla. Like where like but what I mean by that scandal is you would have guessed her to get in that type of scandal. Like if somebody gave you a list of scandals, you'll be like, "Oh, that one's Ayla." You're doing match the scandal to the friend. I could guess the type of scandal.
But no, I honestly, the only reason that it would be is that Ayla is the only person who is wholesome and pure enough to be honest about something like that, which again, people are missing it.
Yeah, or like Razib. I could tell pretty quickly from a list of scandals which one Razib had actually gotten into. And I'll tell you right now, the scandal that Razib would get into, it would be the one where he thought he could get a rise out of somebody by pretending to be a racist, and that person took him to be an actual racist because he loves doing that. That's like one of his biggest vices is when he thinks he can like freak somebody out by saying something that appears like super over the line if it's like a factual statement. And he could so get in trouble by doing that at the wrong time in front of the wrong person. Come on, you know that. Or, okay, we recently did a thing with Leaf. I can't imagine Leaf getting in trouble for anything. I just don't think that she's like goes out socially enough to do wrong by people in that way. She has gotten in trouble a few times, but every time was for being mildly conservative. That's like her.
No, I would. Yeah, it's for agreeing with sensible reactions to things when she
And not backing down.
would be expected to be like, "Oh, I'm outraged. Allow me to clutch my pearls." When instead she's like, "Yeah, I mean, I agree because they're right."
Yeah, I actually, if I see her getting in trouble for something, it's like, for example, something like actually really egregiously racist happens, but she doesn't understand it's racism, and she refuses to back down and apologize because she didn't know it was racism at the time.
Maybe.
And it ends up spiraling out of control. Because that she wouldn't do that with the monkey comment around the BLM riots. That she's like, I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, well, what do you think I am going to get canceled for? Or you are going to get canceled for, if we're going to get canceled for something?
What seems to be the most common pattern is people don't like the way we parent. So we're going to be canceled repeatedly.
Yeah, they think like the hitting the kid thing sticks, and it doesn't stick.
Yeah, but I mean, just in general, like there will be something else about the way that we parent. Like for example, when our kids get older, we're probably going to create LLCs for them and have them start companies. And I could see there being scandals around how we manage their money with them, for example. Like, oh, the Collinses are just exploiting their children for child labor and they're really having a ton of money, having a ton of kids to make money off of them or something like that.
I mean, I hope they make a little money for me. I mean, it's like the Jackson 5. You keep having them until you have one that's a star.
Yeah, I have no idea. But like, yeah, I think a lot of it just comes from a misunderstanding of how we're raising our kids. And, they would assume that like the LLCs that had been created were like all just for us to make money when really like it all belongs to the kid or something. But stuff like that is kind of what I expect.
Yeah, but it's been interesting to me watching this Destiny thing. If it destroys his career, honestly, I'm a little sad because it feels I mean, it's immoral, but it's expected and almost pedantic, the degree to like, "Oh, this'll end his career," everyone's like right now, and I'm like, I mean, you didn't think Destiny was this type of person? Like, I guess maybe that's just, like, what I assumed. I was like, "Yeah, he's, like, really has problems with sexual control." It's not that he meant to, like, hurt this other person. I mean, the recording stuff without people's consent is really bad, but to him, these people are Discord bunnies and, like, whatever. Maybe it's bad to dehumanize people because of their relation to you within, like, a certain social ecosystem, but, he's got millions of followers, right? Like, he's emperor of his little castle. It's a bit like, when people expect, Elon Musk or Louis the 14th to expect to have the sexual rules around their behavior that somebody else would have around their behavior. It's like, bro, like it doesn't work that way. It's actually interesting that I think his arousal patterns are the most subversive thing about him, not that he's a sex maniac given his position.
Sorry, she's being really difficult again. To me this feels like, if anything, a low grade market correction. He did something not nice,
Yeah.
by sharing something he shouldn't have shared, and now he's getting heat for it. And I don't really see that as groundbreaking. And it's nice to see that happening. To me, it doesn't feel like a leftist cancellation. It doesn't feel like any sort of witch hunt. It just feels like a lot of people being like, oh, that's not cool. And it being scandalous enough for some people to talk about it because it's salacious. But it feels fairly grounded, and I like that.
You like this scandal because it's just so benign?
Yeah, just kind of like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not nice. Kind of, how when our kids do things that we don't think they should do, we're like, hey, this is not a very nice thing to do, and here's why. We might make fun of them for a bit about it, and then we just kind of move on.
Mm. Well, I appreciate you talking through this with me, Simone, because I thought this was an interesting scandal from my perspective, mostly in terms of the feelings that it elicited within me. And I
Yeah.
wonder if other people have felt the same way about this scandal, or if I'm unique. As you said, like maybe most people feel the same way about the Neil Gaiman stuff as this. I was just going over the Neil Gaiman stuff and I was like, this is like regular like BDSM stuff. Like the bro's a celebrity. Like, of course he's gonna, if people consent, they consent. Like
Yeah.
I need clear lack of consent for me to be upset about this.
Yeah.
Anyway, of course, my overarching moral is these people should be focused on something more important with their time and their lives. That's what I would say more broadly, but they don't ascribe to my religious beliefs. So,
Well,
like,
but I
I
mean,
can't.
I guess similar issue with the Destiny thing. All the quote unquote victims are people who may have been exchanging intimacy for access to a circle or some kind of
Oh, of
platform.
course they were.
And so, are they really victims? Kind of. That's what do you expect? You're playing in this world. You're doing this because you kind of expect something.
Oh, like some of these people have like boyfriends and stuff, and some of them, like, it's so gross. Like,
Well, but like, who cares? It doesn't matter if it's gross or not. It's just that, like, if you're going to play it fast and loose sexually, stuff like this is probably gonna happen. It sounds like victim blaming, but like,
no, I don't disagree. I do not think it's victim blaming. And I think that people act like there is never, look, if a girl walked through a back alley naked, like, we need to have a discussion about what just happened there. Like, if a guy, if you have the, Die Hard with a Vengeance scene, right? You're walking through all,
yeah.
whatever neighborhood with like, I hate N-words on a sign, and you get beaten up.
Now you got about 10 seconds before those guys see you. When they do, they will kill you, you understand? You are about to have a very bad day. Tell me about it.
Somebody can be like, that, yeah, how dare you blame him for doing that? That's victim blaming. And it's like, well, I mean, but bro, like, should have known what would happen. Like,
It's a conversation we'll certainly have with our
dating.
kids. Like, if you plan on doing these things with your boyfriend or with your girlfriend, expect these risks to be at play.
Oh,
And
and
it's
I
on
think- and I
you. Like you're taking a calculated risk every
Mhm.
time you do this thing. And
Well, I think it's also true as people of certain power in society, especially if they're in the celebrity scene. If you are a girl and you get alone with a guy in one of these circles or something like that, what I would say to my daughter is just don't. Do
Just
not get alone with famous
Mhm.
musicians. Do not get alone with if famous musicians are a thing in the future, whatever the next version is. I guess streamers, right?
Here's the thing is I think that for most people who get into close proximity with these people and then ending up having some kind of intimate encounter, it is a worthwhile price of admission for them. All right. Like
I see it, and I'd be like, how do I know? The girl would be like, like for example, like Jordan Peterson. I'm not afraid of him doing this to anyone. Again, we're talking about like what's his next scandal going to be? His next scandal is going to be some other drug scandal or some other. His actual life is like a disaster, but it's not going to be pressuring young girls into sex. He doesn't seem to have that particular temptation. Or maybe the fallout was his daughter. I could see that, but like there's like a category of like realistic like explosions from people that you expect, and yeah,
yeah.
I think that category and being able to judge that category is important to also maintaining your own safety around certain people.
Like when they do wrong by you or the world, how are they going to do wrong by you?
Yeah, how are they going to cheat you? How are they going to screw you over? How are they going to,
Yeah. And the vast
um,
majority of people you ever know in the world, the vast majority of your friends are only going to do wrong by you by flaking on you constantly and not showing up because that's what people do now. But there are some people who go further. Maybe they will use you as a like mental, emotional like trash can. Maybe they will try to exploit you for money. Maybe they're trying to utilize your resources, and you should be aware of that. But yeah, anyway, it takes two to tango, which is probably one of the more controversial stances in the Pragmatist Guide to Relationships, where we point out that like
yeah,
abusive relationships or just sort of any malfeasance in human relations involves typically participation from two parties. I mean, obviously this is not the case for like someone being attacked and raped, but like if you're talking about an exchange like that, those being described here, these are people who chose to be involved with each other. So
yeah. Well, I love you to death, Simone. You are a great wife. I guess we're going straight to dinner now.
Do you want to push?
Yeah.
All right, ready? 1, 2,